Good evening and welcome to All for United WFC. We had the 3 points, then we had the 1 point, and then Melvin Malard made sure that we weren't going to have 3 grumpy shows in a row by stealing an absolute doozy of a winner. And now all of a sudden, all is well with the world again, especially seeing as our poor old Chelsea drew the game as well. So it'll be interesting to see what the Chelsea fans are like in here this evening. I'm sure still feeling very confident in how we've got to play them again, but good news nonetheless. Right, let's say hello to my crack panel that we have assembled this evening. That is, of course, Andrew and Soph. Soph, lovely to have you back with us. How are you doing this evening?
Yeah, I'm good. I'll apologise for my lighting in advance. I've just explained that my bulb has gone in my only light in my flat. So,
there we go. So poor Soph's got a broken bulb, and Andrew has presumably Blackpool illuminations in his room. It couldn't be any lighter. How are you getting on, Andrew?
Yeah, it's definitely very bright. Yeah, I'm all good. So sense of relief after Saturday. Thought we'd thrown it away when Everton equalised. So Melvin Malard to the rescue.
Absolutely, that rumours that Andrew actually lives at the top of a lighthouse, not being swept under the carpet here today. That is for sure. But there we go. Right, listen, so much to get on with this evening, but let's have a look at what some of you guys are saying already. Good result, okay performance, should have won it without the drama. It was a close one for sure. That's Kevin and JJ there. Erling, happy with the 3 points and a win in Fergie time, but a bit worried that we couldn't secure the win long before Everton scored. And Anton's just saying, what a relief, which I think would be about right. Sean's popped in as well to offer his congratulations on the win. But my God, I just want you to play with freedom and creativity once in a while. Wouldn't that be a thing? Kevin Shields, great win. Great winner, and it absolutely was. And yes, get out of jail card played at the weekend, but a big week ahead of us. Okay. Anybody else there? That game, and especially the finish, was the palate cleanser we desperately needed onto Bayern. I think that's the big one. There's going to be plenty to talk about. We will speak, of course, about Bayern as well as we get a bit closer towards the end. I'm just thinking about Andrew's utilities bill each month. There you go. I wasn't, but I am now. So there we go. Right, let's get ourselves kicked off with a little bit of a chatter about this game against Everton. Now, we don't have to flog that dead horse of the last week, but it hasn't been the most enjoyable of 7 days for United. We came back all full of hope and optimism following the international break, couldn't get past a Chelsea side that were nowhere near the levels that we expect from Chelsea, and then of course couldn't get past the West Ham side either, who were not really anywhere near the levels that should have caused us that level of problems. A 2-0, a 0-0, no goals scored. It wasn't the best of entries into a Saturday lunchtime kickoff, but nonetheless, 3,261 hardy souls drove past the Whistling Wren and fought off the Morrison's parking queues to be able to get into the stadium. And it was a reasonable little atmosphere that we had going on there. So let's kick off with the players. We had Fallon in goal, and interestingly enough, Frido at left back, Millie Turner, Mela Tissier, and Hannah Lundqvist as right back. We had Simi as the third midfielder, along with Lisa Nielsen and Orange and Passion Fruit, and then Jess Park and Melvin Malard either side of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth III. So I was quite intrigued by that. I'm thinking Rolfer at left back. Not sure I was overjoyed by that. If I'm honest with you, Andrew, when that first came out, my first thought was, it's a really good job. It's a really good job we bought Hannah Lundqvist. Otherwise, we'd have no fullbacks other than Gabby George, who, of course, was sat on the bench and, from what I recall, didn't even come on the pitch at all. I suppose my first question is, if you're Gabby George, do you start thinking maybe this is a sign that your time at this club might be coming to an end? Because if you've got a left midfielder being thrown up as your left back, I know, Soph, I've gone straight in with it. We haven't even gone, there's no appetizers here. We've gone straight to the main. We've skipped the chicken wings. But like, it's there. It's my top question. Like, she's not started. She's got a left midfielder started in front of her, and then doesn't come on at all, even when we're struggling and we know we've got a game against Bayern Munich in the midweek. What's your thoughts? So no Gabby, and then of course the rest of the team. How are you feeling about that, Andrew? Welcome to the show.
I was going to say Rolfo has played at left back before, so I don't know whether Skinner was thinking more the attacking intent, because obviously we hadn't scored in the last few games, so it was just like maybe Rolfo on the left and Melvin down the left as well. That attacking combination would work more effectively than probably Gabby and Melvin, but obviously Gabby coming on for Dominique against West Ham, she probably thought, we found out Dominique's now out injured, so it was like, well, she probably thought, I'm probably likely maybe to start, but maybe Skinner was thinking more the attacking intent as well, so what Rolfo can give as well, because she can get down the left, but also prove an attacking option as well. So in terms of the rest of the team, it was more so it probably picked itself because of looking at the bench. It was short again, and I'm just thinking the injuries are piling up against us. And even though back of the last year, we was like, we need some reinforcements. Well, we got those in, but now we feel like we're back down to the bare bones again. So I just thought, I think it was what we put out as well. So I'm just thinking, I think I said on last show, I was saying about when's Tooney going to be back as well. I'm just like, well, Skinner said the target date was the derby, so but it doesn't look like that's going to happen now. So unless something's going to materialise this week. So, but I just think, the team's I think at the moment it's just picking itself because of there's a lack of bench too as well. So, but it was what we got and what we put out.
Yeah, quite reasonable, I think, on all of those. I mean, look, I'm not dissing Rolfo. I'm just saying we didn't buy her as a left back. And if anybody's sitting here and saying, oh, yes, absolutely, she's good enough for Barcelona, it's good enough for us, not why we bought her. We didn't buy her to play her at left back. And that is the point that I'm trying to make. We are, once again, sticking players into positions that aren't necessarily the one that we would want to be putting them in. And she did good. I thought she had a good good game. There was no dramas with that. There's certainly no shade from me being thrown at Rolfo, but just saying, I don't think that was the plan when we purchased them. And obviously, that's going to be the problem when you get the likes of Anna Sandberg not being around, no Jade Riviere as well, and then Dom as well. Not being about, it was a little bit of a tricky one. So, there's no drama. So what I'm saying is, it's not like we didn't have a left back on the bench. And that's the point I'm trying to make on that one. Soph, somebody's put on here already. Let Soph cook while you've been simmering away down there, boiling. Hopefully, we're going to take you off the boil now. I'm going to lift off the lid. Presumably there's going to be a little bit of James Brown with, I feel good or something like that. That would be what happens on TikTok. Is that what happens on YouTube? Probably not. Let's find out. So, same question. Go.
Well, I'm not going to be singing any karaoke, so I don't know about that. I mean, I agree with pretty much everything Andrew said, to be honest. He kind of said everything I was thinking, but I'm not against it. I think it's kind of mad because I too, when I saw the lineup, was very like, oh my god, like Frida in left back, like what's up with that? But I think, and then I immediately remembered when we did sign her, I remember having a conversation straight away after it was announced that, like obviously we're signing her as an attacker, but she's played at left back for Barcelona. Like, I'm not going to turn my nose up at that, am I? And I remember it was something that was discussed, I feel, very early on when we signed her, and then never mentioned again. Obviously, we've had such a dearth of talent in Sandberg, so we've all kind of relaxed, like, okay, it's fine, we've got a brilliant left back. And then obviously when she's been injured, the go-to's been Gabby and then it's been Janssen. And I think it's kind of slipped everyone's minds that Rolfo is a brilliant left back. That might not be the position we bought her for, but I would take Rolfo at left back over Gabby any day of the week. I think when you look at the fullbacks that we are starting, namely Sandberg, Jade and Hannah, when you look at like the style of play that they have, they are all very, very athletic, very fast. They are attacking fullbacks. They are often, they're the kind of fullbacks you would play as a wing back, right? Like they're very attacking, very forward thinking. And it's the times when they're not playing where we really see like Park gets stunted because she doesn't have someone behind her, or whoever's on the left wing gets stunted because they don't have that attacking forward. So I think it's really, I think that's the issue with Gabby at left back is, I'm not saying she's a bad left back, but she's a very, very defensive left back. How many times on here do I have to say I think she's more of a centre back at this point? So, you know, I'm not saying she should go because I think she's a great squad player. She brings a lot to the team. She's saved us so many times because we haven't had someone else in that position and we've needed a really strong, solid defensive foundation. So I don't think that her time is necessarily up at United, but I think maybe her time is going to be majority spent on the bench because we've come to rely on that really attacking fullback play. We utilise the wings so much now. It's one of the reasons our football's been so much more creative and free this season is because we've really adapted into that style, and I think putting Gabby in that just hinders it. So I'd much rather have Rolfo there, someone who can do that, and then also that frees up space of you get the perk of you've got the Fridolina Rolfo on the pitch for you, but you can also have another winger. You can have Malard there at the same time. Like that to me is kind of the ideal situation. So yeah, things to think about, but I'm honestly, yeah, I think my main takeaway is I'm just shocked that we haven't done that before. I know Rolfo's been injured as well, but I'm shocked it's taken us this long in the season, or not in the season, but yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Lots of good points to be made there. And again, yes, a squad player, but I think if you're telling me that Frida is a left back before her and Sandberg is a left back before her, and we've got Jade and Hannah, and probably Hannah might even be a left back before her if there was an injury there, I don't really see what else people can really say about Gabby George unless there's, you know, like no DJ and no Millie, then what do you do with her? So I don't know. Like, listen, my job as the host is not really to throw my opinions across so much. It doesn't look good, does it? It's not great for the optics. What was great, though, Andrew, was the first half. It was a much better performance. It wasn't outstanding, but I do think it was pretty good defensively by half time. I know obviously I'm not skipping over the goal, but by half time we had 10 shots. Everton had 2. Only one of theirs was on target. 6 of ours are on target. It seemed like we were doing good things up in the final third. I thought Melvin Malard and Elizabeth Turland especially were sort of linking up quite well and doing good things. Jess Park as well, which is why the 3 of them are on our player of the match poll. Simia Wujo is the 4th one. So if you haven't already, get yourself voting on that to have your say. Or maybe you disagree. Maybe you think it should be somebody else. And if that's the case, do feel free to come in and tell us on the chat so that we can ignore you. I mean, so that we can see what you've written there and see what you think. I'm joking. We won't ignore you if I see a different name. I'll be surprised, though, if it is. But it was, I thought, Andrew, quite a good first half. So talk us through your thoughts on it. What was different for you about this first half against Everton and the previous first halves that we'd had, apart from the fact that we actually scored a goal in one of them?
I was going to say a bit of a big difference between West Ham and Everton. I'd say it's probably a well-balanced display of attacking purpose, and so the chances we were creating as well, and they were quality rather than speculative efforts as well. So I think we had about 6 shots on target in the first half as well. So retaining possession of the ball, and we also getting in behind the Everton defence as well. So same, I say, composed and effective first half. So and say the number of shots like we was having, like Zigiotti had a few chances where she could have gave us the lead as well. So it was just like, yeah, I was just pleased. It was like we were going on the front foot. I thought, please don't be like West Ham again. Just like the same was like, even I think within the first couple of minutes, Melvin had a shot on a goal as well that tested Brosnan as well. So it was like, yeah, I was like a good sign of things to come. So, but yeah, I was saying the players were, I think after West Ham, I think in the team huddle, I don't look like Skinner was having a bit of a go at them. So, well, looked like that. So maybe we were just saying you need to be a little bit better in front of goal, which we have been lacking for the last couple of games as well. But you could equally put that down to not having Sandberg or Riviere. So just driving that width and getting crosses in and saying, and forwards are relying on service. The service is not there, and there's less chances coming in. So we've been having to attack in different ways, from set pieces and everything. So, but yeah, much better first half, as you said. So it's something we can build on.
I think it definitely was something we could build on, and I think it was the sort of response that we needed. I don't know, Sophie, that it wasn't blood and thunder straight out of the blocks, absolutely ripping them to pieces and all of that sort of stuff, but it just seemed more positive. I mean, to be honest, we could have had 5 shots and it probably would have felt more positive than it had been for the previous few games, but it was definitely better. What do you think was the key sort of difference on this one? Was it having Simi in the midfield? Do you think that made a bit of a difference? Was it going back to having Mel and Jess on their 2 sides with Her Majesty in the middle and not mucking about, sticking her in the 10? What do you think was the difference in terms of us looking more positive going forward?
It's hard to say exactly, to be honest, because I think there definitely is an argument for Simi being like important in that. Obviously, we've missed Hinny so much, and you can tell from the performances, right? So I think having that increased control in the midfield, when you look at the West Ham lineup, we were obviously kind of playing two nines, sort of, but all that really meant was you kind of had a bit of a hole in the middle, and then obviously with the injuries to our fullbacks, you also weren't really getting that creativity down the wing. So there's definitely an argument to be made that like the slight formation change, going back to kind of what we're used to with having Simi sit in that deeper role, like I think that definitely was important. We had a lot more control, but also when you look at the possession, we had more possession in the West Ham game than we did in the Everton game. So, I think, to be honest, it was just there was more creativity. I think what we lacked was the final finish, but it wasn't, it weren't for a lack of trying. There were quite a few good chances we had, especially in that first half, where we were seeing more of that kind of energy rather than, I think, we've seen a lot of tiredness, and you can see the fatigue. Even if it's not physical, it's definitely there mentally. And I think you could definitely see that in parts this weekend, but I think for the most part, we loosened up a little bit. I'd say maybe at points too loose, given how many shots went quite far wide. But generally, I think it was just a bit more creativity. I do think, I do think that having Fredo there was definitely beneficial, but I don't think there's any one reason. I think it was just one of those games where you either turn up or you don't. So
that feels perfectly fair to me on that one. Very interesting point to be made here. So Paul saying he thought he must have seen the game differently from us guys because he honestly thought Ziggy was the player of the match. I don't think she was bad by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, we can only put 4 people on. That's not just a meeting. That's YouTube. It won't let you do any more than that. That's technological barriers that need to be overcome there on that one. I mean, I don't think anybody with me, it's going to be between Mel and Elizabeth Turland personally. But I think really there were arguments for Jess Park being involved, possibly for Frido even, for Ziggy, Simi, and Maya, certainly having gone through that, doing my little jotting system that I do every time people do things. I stretched it up a little bit this time when gave people 2 points for a goal and an assist. So it's evolving. It's evolving, this little thing that we're trying to do here. But I think it's a reasonable shout. I don't think for 1 second anyone would say that she was not good. And I think it's fair to point out as well on this case, Andrew, that Ziggy was instrumental, of course, in that first goal. Brilliant bit of work, nice bit of creativity in the middle of the park before she gave it to Park. And very nice when Park, I love that, Park was bad, as she's just about to set up an assist for Her Majesty to reign once again supreme on her throne with a cracking little finish. And I think the big problems that we've had in the last few games, we've not had that clinicality at all. But on this one, superb. I think it was a really, really good finish from Elizabeth Turland. What did you make of it, Andrew?
Yeah, it was like the sense of relief that we actually scored. I say, great ball into the box by Park, but say initially Turland mishit her shot, but luckily it kindly fell, just in front of her as well, as the Everton player was just trying to grab the ball off her as well. So it kindly fell right in front of her, and she just straight into the net, putting a boot through it, which you would do in that situation. So yeah, it just since we've got a goal ahead, and so just literally 7 minutes before half time. So I thought, are we going to be going into half time still 0-0? I'm just like, we're creating these chances, but not, being clear cut with them and saying we're controlling the game. I'm just like, well, there's only so much you can control the game if you're not, putting your shots away, and then just saying you're not going to end up winning the game. But yeah, say lovely strike from Turland, and say, yeah, and say good to see her back on the score sheet again. So it was just like a sense of relief, should I say?
No, fair enough. Few people saying they don't think Park was that great. Well, listen, it's up to you, but I think she was. I can't see what we're trying to get at here as being one of the four, but there we go. If an assist isn't good enough and being sort of level with what the others were doing, I don't know. But I would say maybe we're seeing it slightly differently. Sophie, for you, a good goal, like I say, and at 38 minutes as well, a good time to get the goal, because we could have gone another half without scoring. It's a little bit of worry. You do start getting in your head, it's 2 whole games and a half that we've not scored in. It does start to become a thing. So to sort of get that monkey off your back and be like, no, that's it, we're done now, we've scored, gave us that chance to be that little bit freer.
Yeah, for sure. It's kind of we needed that. I think you could tell the longer the first half went on, even though we still were playing pretty decently, you could see some of the shots were getting a bit silly. And so, yeah, it was a great goal. It spills a little bit, but she just absolutely poaches it, proper striker's instinct, and just absolutely stabs it away. Like, there was no stopping that. So I think, yeah, it was good goal, brilliant time, as you said. Like, that allowed us to calm down a little bit, I think, kind of settle into it, maybe a bit too calm. But yeah, no, really, really happy for Talon to get on the score sheet as well. I feel like that's exactly what she needed. So yeah.
Very nice. Well, she is certainly one of the media darlings at the moment. There's no doubt about that, and for good reason, I think. So there we go. That was, I thought, like I say, a really good goal, and such an important one to get, like I say, just before half time. Now, the second half, we sort of had a really good conversation about this first half, but the second half I thought was not as penetrative, shall we say. In the end, bearing in mind we were on 10 shots with 6 on target, we ended up with 16 shots and only 9 on target by the end of the second half, whereas Everton went on to have a further 5 shots, of which 2 more were on target. So again, not a huge difference in terms of the numbers, and certainly the statistics themselves don't necessarily show too much. But it does show that we were not having or taking or even trying as many chances in the second half as we did in the first. Do you put that down, Andrew, to what Soph was saying there about just that little bit of fatigue, the fact that we know that we've got Bayern coming up midweek as well? Was there? And I wouldn't like to think for 1 second this is the case, but I then try and think about what I would be like mentally if I was, an elite athlete. Would I be thinking, we're winning, let's see if I can play in second gear for a bit so that I'm not too shattered if midweek comes around?
Yeah, so there's probably a case for that amongst the players thinking, oh, we got another game Wednesday, then Saturday as well. It's almost like, do we want to push ourselves much more? Because obviously could end up with injuries again, or it's one of those. But it was definitely a slight tactical shift in the game in the second half compared to the first. I think it was more greater control with the ball and game management, and say just reflecting now we're trying to protect our advantage, but also if we get a chance to score another, then we get it, we'll try and put it away. But I just felt like as the game wore on, it just like we're sitting on this 1-0, and I just thought if Everton suddenly have a moment, and which they did, they'll punish us for it. But I think we slightly upped our possession in the second half, so compared to the first half. So I think it was a deliberate attempt, to dictate the tempo and limit Everton's opportunities as well. So yeah, it was just the overall was just like stronger possession and tempo management, but getting those chances. But we probably should have buried the game before what did happen in the end. So just like, let's say, so whether that was a bit of a fatigue from the players, and just like when what happened in the end, the players went, oh yeah, we've got to do something literally quick now, which we ended up doing. So, but yeah, I can see where the players may have thought, oh, can we just control this game in about second gear? But as they can control the game as much as you like, but let's say it's just, we've got to be mindful that we don't sit on 1-0 or like even 2-1 leads. 2-1's always a tricky score as well, because the opposition get back in, and then it's like, as I say, it could have ended up being a very frustrating afternoon again, but luckily it wasn't from that second half near the end.
I mean, so that seems quite fair as well. There were some good opportunities, I think, in that second half, and certainly one of the ones that you think about. Leah Schuller had a good one that Courtney Brosnan managed to save, but Courtney Brosnan was a big reason as to why that scoreline didn't increase. She made 7 saves in the game, which, when you consider that 9 of our shots were on target, it means that really the defence are only doing their job for 2 of those. She's had to be the reason to sort of keep it down. We've had our share of goalkeepers, I suppose, that have done pretty well over the course of the last couple of games. I know that we were quite worried about Courtney Brosnan, but do you think that there was enough for us going forward? Because 16 shots and 9 on target isn't a bad ratio. That's pretty good for any club. If you're going to get 16 on 16 shots off and 9 of them are on target, that's pretty reasonable. But the fact that 7 of them been saved is a little bit of a worry there, I suppose, on that one. So talk to us a bit about your thoughts on the second half, us going forward, and why we couldn't quite get the control of the game that we needed that would have made it a much more comfortable end of the game.
Yeah, I that was something I was going to mention, was that Brosnan is a brilliant keeper, right? Like, we've known this for ages. She's one of those kind of quietly underrated, but very, very consistent keepers. And yeah, she definitely was a large reason for that. There were quite a few shots we had that she saved, and like some good saves as well. So yeah, that's, but at the end of the day, you can't, we can't control their keeper or their lineup. We can only control where we're putting the ball. So I do think it was a bit of, I don't want to say complacency is the word that comes to mind, but like, I don't really want to say that. I do think what Andrew said was kind of spot on. Like, I get the mindset, but 1-0 is not a scoreline that you can sit back and rest on your laurels at. I don't think we were completely doing that. We still definitely were trying to create. And as you say, we did have a good few chances, but I think just we were lacking that kind of clinical finish in the end. And I think had Turner's goal not gone in the first half, we would have been saying the exact same thing about the first half. So it's a tricky one, because you can't say exactly, well, I can't, what would have fixed it. I think, honestly, it is just the fixture congestion. And I don't want to, I'm not going to sit here and like blame that as the reason we're having not great results. But I think we do maybe need to look at who in our squad we can bring in for, energy, really. And I think that's why bringing on Layla Drury was such a smart move. I think she, without her, I'm jumping ahead, but without her, I don't think that goal doesn't happen. So I think it's definitely a case of kind of not just game management in the sense of like, let's waste time, let's pass the ball around at the back. I think we need to be looking more at game management of how can we keep the levels consistent without absolutely running ourselves into the ground. Hopefully more players coming back from injury will help that. Obviously that's something we're struggling with, but I don't know. Yeah, it was, to be honest, I was shocked when I saw the stats for the amount of shots we had, because when I was watching it did not feel like that. There was like the occasional moment where I'd be like up out of my seat, but I hate to say it, for a lot of that second half, I was a little bit bored, because I felt like we didn't really care. I felt like we were just kind of doing whatever, keeping hold of the ball, maybe have a pop, but there wasn't really that fight until the subs came on. So.
Well, and I'm glad that you mentioned that. We'll keep you up on this conversation on that one, because you mentioned the subs as if there was a raft brought on in order to try and re-energize the side. Now, I get that our subs bench was not necessarily filled with star power. We've got obviously the mandatory two goalkeepers. The mandatory two goalkeepers that are sat on a bench when we're lucky. Well, I say we're lucky. We're unlucky if one of them has to come on, because that means that something's happened to Fallon. But there we go. But aside from that, we had obviously Gabby George. Again, didn't feel a need to use her. Obviously, Layla Drury and Leah Schiller, both who came on, we'll get to Drury in a moment. And of course, Jessica Anderson as well. So there wasn't that many subs being mentioned either in the first place, as if the squad depth wasn't as good as we had hoped it was going to be come January. So the only change we made was for Leah Schiller to come on for Elizabeth Turland. Why do you think that was? Like, we've got a game against Bayern Munich coming up this Wednesday. Yes, that's 4 days, but rather than having all of your players literally go out there and potentially have them in a situation where they could get hurt, could get injured, could get even more fatigue, any of these sorts of things that could happen. Instead, we made one sub, and it wasn't until the 72nd minute that we did that anyway. Why? What was your take on the subs? Is that the right decision, do you think, from him, or would you have rather seen Gabby George, for example, come on for Rolfer or Lundqvist so they could get a little bit more of a rest and give Jessica Anderson a chance as well?
I think bringing Schiller on was the right decision. Obviously, she didn't have much luck, but I think at that point, when the team is maybe looking a bit fatigued, and as I said, you don't want to rest on your laurels at 1-0, but if you get to 75 minutes and not much is changing, I very much understand wanting to protect Turland. I think that, to me, that is the most logical reason why he would make that sub. And I completely understand it. I think you don't want to, we're very thin on the ground. It's a very limited bench. Do what you can to kind of minimize that, just the amount of minutes that people are playing. I do think there's an argument for putting George on. I personally contradicting what I just said about protecting players, I am glad that he didn't bring George on, because I think, again, we needed those legs on the left-hand side. We needed Frido. So yeah, I understand why he didn't, and I'm glad that he didn't. I think we see quite often, like, he'll make subs almost for the sake of making subs, particularly in the back line. I feel like he's been doing that a lot recently, is like bringing Gabby George on in like the 60th minute for kind of no reason, or like bringing like like swapping out Janssen and Turner. Why bother changing your centre backs, you know? So I understand why he didn't bring George on. I also understand why you might have, and I think he could probably make the right decision, because you want to retain that attacking kind of style. Yeah, my main point I was going to make about the subs is, why are you only bringing Drury on in the 90th minute? That's insane. She was the breath of fresh air we needed. She was kind of the perfect example of why you should be making subs in that kind of game. And it's just fresh legs. Yes, she's young. Yes, she doesn't have the experience, but that's how she gets it. And what she does have, because she's like 12 years old and 10 feet tall, is legs. Just put someone with legs on, have them run around, tire the others out, and you're sorted. And you win a corner, and Rolfo takes it, and Malard gets on it, and you score a goal. That's how you win games like that. So I really don't understand why you would wait until the 90th minute, because it's not like, oh, they equalise, we're now level, and then we've got 4 minutes to equalise, or however long it was, but not equalise, sorry, to get a winner. Like, Drury is not a player. Drury is not a player who has that, like, she's not known for like the game winning, experience. She's not like a super technical player that you're bringing on to completely change the game or do something magic. You are bringing her on just to have someone run at the defenders. So why are you doing it that late? Why are you waiting until we've already gone one down? Until we've already conceded? That is baffling to me, and I don't know why he waited that long. But thank God he did it at all. Is my main takeaway.
Well, you got 12 years old and 10 feet tall. Definitely could be a child, and I can confirm that Gabby George has legs. Just thought I'd throw that one out there. On there, maybe not fast legs, but she does possess legs. Andrew, again, we'll get to the Drury bit, because that all comes into that crazy last sort of 7 minutes that was happening. But madness, isn't it? Absolutely madness. That, I mean, Leah Schiller, there's people in the chat saying, can't wait to see Leah Schiller actually do something. But is she being given the time and the ability to bed in and actually have a chance to do this? Is there a fairness? I'm devil's advocate on this one. This is not Barry's opinion. Very rarely is it my opinion when I'm asking the questions. You'll know my opinion, because I will clearly stake my colours to the mast. But is there a bit of that? Could Leah Schiller be, or is she right if she was to say, actually, I need a bit more time and a bit more of a run, a bit more of a chance to get used to these people around me, but it keeps changing and I don't get used for much? Or are people right that actually she has been given plenty of opportunities and she's just not managed to set the world alight? But I mean, either way, she needed to come on. But was 18 minutes enough?
I don't. Could he have brought her on early? But then I don't know whether Skinner's, because of the run of games we're on, is he just like protecting Turland as well? So I don't know whether he's going to start Schuller on Wednesday, because obviously she's going to be going against a former club, so she has the know-how of how they play as well. But also, say Turland as well, say, taking her off, just protecting her a little bit, because we've got enough injuries as it is. If we just pick up another one, then we're really going to be short. And I just think on Schuller, it is probably that time bedding in as well. So I'm going to say it's a new league to her as well, and getting used to her teammates and how they work. And say, I said it earlier, the lack of service at the moment for the forwards as well. So, yes, we've missed Sandberg and Riviere, that can get to the wide areas and put those crosses in. So I just think, like the other night, I think she had one great chance against West Ham and just unfortunately didn't go in the goal. So, but it's to say, once she gets, that game time, and once the goal comes, then she'll probably start firing as well, a bit like Turland as well. Once that goal on Saturday, can just fire in a few more as well. So, but yeah, I just say the game was, as so said, even standing in the crowd in that hot sun, it was like, we're not doing much, and it's getting a bit. I'm just like, please, just it's 1-0. Somebody needs to do something, because Everton could literally spring on us, and which they did, and then conceded, and then Skinner went literally got Drury on and let's go all out and attack, and which we had to anyway, because if we didn't, then we would have been saying 2 points dropped, and say Chelsea hadn't drawn and they got 3 points, they would have been further away from us. So that European qualification would have been literally going out of our hands, and like we'd have been relying on them to drop points elsewhere. But yeah, with Skinner and his substitution, whenever he does them, people say it could be done sooner. It could be maybe shouldn't have brought him on. Like for me, Gabby George as well. Would I have brought her on? No, because Rolfo would say she can play at left back, and she's probably in that attacking threat as well. And I think with Gabby George, her best position playing as centre back. That's where she's been good at. Even I think back to Madrid away in the league phase when she had to come on, and when we had Dom sent off, like she was brilliant in that role. So I was like, if you're going to bring her on in any position, it would be that one. As I said, she's more defensive when she's at left back. So I just thought, yeah, but Skinner's in substitution divides many fans, and when he does them. So some say earlier, some say shouldn't have brought that player on. So I don't know, but I say at the end he needed to go out all out in the attack anyway.
We do indeed. Now, before we can even get to that goal for the equaliser, something happened on the 81st minute that I'm not going to lie, wound me up. And so for people saying my player of the match, this is one big reason why I wouldn't have picked her to be in the top 4. And that was because Ziggy did... I thought I'd saved a particular chat there, but I didn't, so I can't show that one. But the commentator makes a joke about it, saying, there's Ziggy, she looks like she's about to start the conga. I didn't find it very funny at all. And that's not having a go at the commentator, that's very much having a go at her. It's in the middle of the park, there's no need to do it. She grabs the player, pulls them round, and that yellow card now means that she will obviously miss the game against Manchester City, which is not good. We were in a situation where, I'm sure that Hinata Miyazawa will play the game on Saturday anyway. If she wasn't gonna, she is now, because I can't see a world in which we go into this game without Hinny and without Ziggy. But I just thought a really silly decision. I know sometimes it can be a good one to maybe have a little pull and a tactical foul like that to try and stop them from attacking. I do get it from that point of view, but this wasn't one of those. They just sort of grabbed them. It seemed like a really silly free kick and yellow card to give away. And yes, I can understand why people would laugh when they watched it, but the minute you heard, well, that's her suspended, like she knows this. She knows she's got to be careful. We're not talking Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, red card, final few minutes, taking out a player who's running through one-on-one on goal. This was something where if she'd have, just put her legs into it, she could have got there. So yeah, Andrew, thoughts on that one? What did you make? Because I looked at that and it annoyed me. Did it annoy you?
Because I think we were saying in the grounds, I think we were saying, is she suspended? Not suspended for the the derby. Now she's got the yellow card. So there's a bit of confusion. Then afterwards, it was like, oh, she is suspended. I was like, just thought one player could have done without missing the game. And I just think while Hinney's been away, Ziggy's been probably covering the role of two players. She's probably been trying to do everything in that midfield as well. So trying to cover what Hinney would have offered us as well. So that's why I'm thinking with Hinney coming back from the Asia Cup, I don't necessarily see her starting on Wednesday, probably on the bench, but it depends how tired she is or, how she feels coming back from the Asia Cup as well. So, yeah, it's almost like we needed them both in for the derby, but now it's like one's out and now the other one's come back. So, and I just think, yeah, it was just, I say during the game, maybe that wasn't in Ziggy Oxley's mind. It's like, oh, I'm already on 4 yellow cards. She's probably just trying to, get the ball back off the player, and ended up, just doing that to the Everton player. And I'm just like, it was just like, yeah, it's frustrating, but it's just that accumulation of yellow cards has just done her in the end. So I'm just like, yeah, it's put us a bit under the cosh for, next Saturday. But I would say Wednesday, I just don't. Whether he might throw Hinney in straight away, but it depends how she feels. But yeah, the big miss was next Saturday. So just, yeah, a little bit unnecessary. But say sometimes you're not thinking during the game as well about how many yellow cards you're on.
No, but I mean, if there was somebody here, say, who has put, perhaps she was unaware of the number of yellows. I can't believe for 1 second she's going into that game not knowing that she's on 4 yellow cards and that yellow is going to get her suspended. I mean, I can't believe that when you've got this is Manchester United we're talking about here. We've got people that analyse they probably analyse what time they get up, what time they're going to bed, what they're eating, how many times they pick their nose during a day. Like, I would imagine they've got literally absolutely everything. It would amaze me that they wouldn't know that she's on 4 yellow cards and that hadn't been mentioned to her. Either way, not a great idea, was it?
Yeah, no. She must have known. There's no way she didn't know. I imagine it was just kind of, she probably thought she could get away with it. And it's not a great position to be in. We're definitely going to miss her. Like, I think the few games where we haven't had her this season, it's been so evident how brilliant of a signing she's been. And I think, yeah, it's going to be tricky. Everyone else is going to have to kind of step up. Hopefully Simi can have another great game, because I assume she'll be the one who's taking that position. Yeah, it's just frustrating. Like, I'm one who will praise Ziggy normally for, that bit of fight. I enjoy it. It makes the game entertaining. She's smart with it usually. So yeah, normally I'd be fine with it, but just, yeah, it's silly and it's needless, and it puts the rest of the team in a pretty bad position. So I don't know. We'll have to see.
It was. I mean, again, like you said, not going to labour the point, but yes, it absolutely was a dangerous thing to do, and a little bit silly. Right. There it was. I did save it. There you go. So you got the 80th minute waste ball. Foul was unnecessary. Habby and Stitcher in the comments said she's about to start the conga. A dance, I presume. I can't believe you don't know what the conga is. The conga is a staple of birthday parties, weddings, and sometimes even funerals. It's an amazing little dance by a little group called Black Lace from back in the 80s. Feel free to Google that and find it. It followed on with the Locomotion in the 90s. They sort of carried it on. But yeah, you literally just grab the waist of the person in front of you and off you go. You're all kicking your legs out. Oh, it's an amazing fun. How you can not enjoy a conga, I would never know. Right, let's look at the goal, shall we? So I had a lot of people obviously saying how good it was that Frida was there at left back. I also have listened to a lot of you tell me that Gabby George is a defensive left back. some might argue that a defensive left back, therefore, would have stopped that cross from coming in the first place there from around Frida, sorry. But even then, the cross, which was a good one, it was nicely placed onto the head of Guerrero that we've got there. But the people watching, what is going on? They're running back, loads of space. Hannah Lundqvist not having none of it. Simi Awujo nowhere near it. And Jess Park, who is on the side where she could see that there was people there. The goal goes in, and she gives it her very best. Alejandro Garnacho giving it the arms. And I don't like that when people are blaming other people, and that did seem that way. And again, Jess Park, a lot of love for her, but it was just a little bit annoying. I think there was frustration amongst all of them that they had done as well as they had done for 90 minutes, and they've been let down by one very, very good ball, but nonetheless, absolutely horrific. So, what do we think? Soph, I'll let you go first on this one. How could we have avoided that? Or did you feel it was coming? Because they certainly were starting to ramp up the attacks.
Yeah, annoying is the word for it. You don't get much more annoying in football than conceding a 90-minute goal. Everyone in the comments is saying that it was Millie, not Frida, that's defending the thing. And I honestly can't remember. So I'm just going to guess. Whoever it was that didn't block the cross. Annoying again. I feel like it was the kind of goal where a lot of people could have done better, but no one, in my opinion, did anything drastically wrong. Like, it wasn't a glaring error. And I think, as you say, Everton have been really ramping it up. I think as well, we often kind of underestimate Everton as a team, especially this season. Like, when you look at, they've been a bit up and a bit down, but like the streak that they were on was pretty good. So they've, I think we've maybe underestimated them in terms of like their attacking prowess, because at the end of the day, like they're sixth and they're doing decent. So I think it maybe was coming. You could kind of see us slowing down and trying to settle into it. And I think exactly what we were saying before of okay, there you go. That's the answer there. Yeah, I think either way, like, it was definitely a defensive error, but it wasn't like a glaring one. It was just, I think, a culmination of constantly, like, as you say, Everton are ramping it up. We're kind of slowly beating back the tide until one slips through, and like the actual shot was very good. Like, it would have been tricky to save, but it's, it happens. And I think it's not the kind of goal where I'm gonna start screaming and yelling, going, "Oh, it was your fault, it's your fault." But it is the kind of goal where you go, "That was very easily avoided if we just kept that concentration and kept that kind of control over the game that we did have." But we kind of let slip when we fell into that kind of complacent attitude. So definitely a frustrating one, a very, very frustrating time to concede. But I think, yeah, avoidable, but I would say not avoidable it was avoidable on an individual level, but when I say avoidable, I'm more referring to kind of the entire attitude that we had towards the end of the game, I think.
No, absolutely. And again, people right to say that it was, of course, Millie Turner there, but Frida, like we say, was halfway up the pitch. And this is my point that I'm making. If people are saying, well, Gabby George is a defensive left back, you stick a defensive left back on winning at 1-0. Is that not a reasonable, sensible thing to do to give you that opportunity to defend the lead that you have created for yourself, especially with this amount of time going on? Perhaps if you've got Gabby George there, who knows? And as we say, Millie has to come across. Maya's already into the middle, and that's where you end up with all of these things going on. So the point still remains. Andrew, now that I have presented you with this evidence, would you like to reconsider your thoughts on whether or not Gabby George should have been introduced to the game, or do you stick with your opinions?
I'll still stick that Gabby. Yeah. Would I have brought her on? No, because Frida, left back and all. But no, let's say Gareth's comment was right. Yeah, Millie got dragged out because Frida was coming back and they had him in on the attack. But you could see him looking back on that the goal conceded. You could see Lundqvist, a few times just checking on over her shoulder, going, "Oh, who's coming at me?" And the same. But then as they got into the box, the Everton player cut across Lundqvist, so she was like, "Who am I going to mark here?" But then you could see Simi and Jess as well. So it's like no one was picking up Gambaro, and basically it was a good. As soon as it left there, I was like, "Oh, that's going to go in," and I was like, "Yeah." I thought we've thrown this game away, and I was just like, we've dropped even more points, and I just felt like we just trying to control that 1-0, and I'm just like the same. It was going to be frustrating. I just thought, and then literally, then just announced 4 minutes are on the board. I was like, I thought, are we going to get another moment, or is this it? I just felt like, I just thought United were just prepared to sit on a 1-0 win, and I was just like, Everton was starting to bring more attacks to us, and I'm just like, maybe it was a bit of fatigue had set in, and just thinking, oh, we'll get through this 1-0 and get on to Wednesday. So just like, I was prepared to walk out the LSB a bit more, even more disappointed than from what happened Wednesday. So they played to Everton, they attacked, and it was a great header. I can't deny it. So just luckily United, what came next was even better.
Well, so it was the second best header of the game, wasn't it? But before even we can get to that one, now I'm going to give you just 2 words to answer this next question. Those words are either tactical genius or lucky duck. Bringing Layla Drury on in the 93rd minute. The 93rd minute, I think, if I'm remembering back correctly, there was only 4 minutes of time pretty much to be added on anyway. So in the hope that 90 seconds worth was going to be enough for a school child, because she's 16, just to make this very clear, she had school the next day, she was given 60 seconds, did end up winning us the corner that preceded the goal. So, tactical genius or lucky duck, they're the only 2 words you're allowed.
Oh, I'm going to say lucky duck.
See, I would have gone lucky duck, Andrew, as well. Soph?
Yeah. Can I say lucky tactical? Because I feel like that's what it was. I don't think it was either.
It's somewhere in between.
I will let you delve into that. That's definitely not a word. I will let you delve into that a bit more. Why was it both tactical and lucky?
Well, I think what I was saying before, right? Like the idea of putting Drury on at all is, in my opinion, that's good tactics. I'm not going to say genius. I'm not calling him a genius, but like that's a smart move to do, right? So I think I understand it. I don't understand why it was that late in the game, and I think that is kind of the crux of it. So I think there was tactics, perhaps, so tactical, but it's very, very lucky that she managed to get the ball in the first place, because 60 seconds is not a lot of time. I know that that's maybe like a quarter of the whole time she's been on Earth, but like, it's a tough job to give to her. It kind of felt like a last minute chuck on. He wasn't actually expecting anything to come of it. Thank God something did. So swings and roundabouts.
I mean, fair. It's hard to argue with too much of that. But Andrew, on another day, and I'm sure other people have put this in the chat as well. Like, I mean, it's literally, she made the most of her 70 seconds coming on and winning us the corner. But why wait? Why wait until 1 minute from the end? You know, you're left in this situation where if he does just bring her on for a minute and she doesn't win that because she doesn't get anywhere near the ball because 70 seconds is not a long amount of time. Yes, you can just say, just go and run after that round thing and see what you can do with it. But ultimately doesn't help. Why didn't he bring her on earlier? Like, and what I mean as well by that is not even just I'm going to bring her on at 90+3. Like the goal was scored in the 90th minute. He still waited for a couple of attacks and a couple of phases of play before he went, hold on, let's bring GCSE girl on.
Yeah, it was like standing there. I was like, are we going to get that one more moment? And then see Layla was standing there. So I was like, we just got to go all out attack. And I'm just thinking, mate, could have brought her on earlier as well. Because literally, when she did come on, literally, she, got the ball under control. She just ran at the opposition, and she created that moment that led to the corner. So, as I said, she made her moment count. And then I think Skinner said about her after the game, said about, young players, said we love to build up our youngsters and then and put them on, a high pedestal. But you just want those young players, to grow and develop their game. So sometimes you don't want to give them too much too early because they could go backwards from it. But made the most of them. They're quite a tall player, and but she was just another attacking option. So I think somebody said there in the Rachel Williams Plan B moment. But somebody said there, tactical duck. It's just like a bit lucky, and it was just throw everything at Everton and just see if we can just do something, because you could sense if we had not got that winning goal, then it wouldn't have been very nice atmosphere at the end going, well, we've dropped more points now, and just we're stumbling again. Because I think I might have said it. I was saying the last number of seasons where there's some fixtures where we think, oh, we should be winning those, and we've just stumbled over them and just not got the 3 points. So I'm just like, is that again where this week where we've just not been great, but and just dropping more points. So I can see there you started that comment Skinner time. I said that in the stands afterwards and said Skinner time. So somebody said more like Fergie time. So, but but she made a moment count, and hopefully we'll get to see more of her. So it's just you want to develop these youngsters, over time, not rush them straight in and go, because then if they don't live up to the expectation, then you're going to end up being disappointed by them.
Very, very true. I'm starting to feel like I can't win here. I get told off if I don't mention him, told off if I do. You don't mention him enough. He's a cancer on the club. Oh, you mention him too much. Like, come on, help me out, guys. And just to add to that, I'm going to speak about him one more time, because I feel like this it's got a song in it, surely. Bit of a theme tune. I know they've done it on Gladiators with Hammer, but we could have a bit of MC Hammer on that one, couldn't we? Every time a goal goes in the 90+ minute, we can have that bit of Skinner time, and then he can get up on the side of there, sort of giving it the bit of a running man. Be amazing, no? I'm up for that. I think we should definitely somebody get on the phone. Susan, get that on the book. We're off. That's what we're gonna do. A little bit of Skinner time. Be awesome. Right. Let's talk about the goal. Somebody on here saying that Courtney Brosnan makes a hash of it. I kind of disagree. I think that Courtney Brosnan got beaten to the ball with a little bit of help from the mighty Simia Wujo, who was a perfect little blocker, did her job incredibly well, and then boom, in came Melvine Malard, who had recalibrated her shooting boots, which were not on her feet at this point, they're on her head, obviously, and boom, back of the net, 2-1. And I'm not going to lie, Andrew, I watched that initially just before then, and I'm thinking, what a week. It looked like it was going to be so good. It was only 1-0, but I'll take it. It's what we need. Nothing rubbish about that goal, was there, Andrew?
There was nothing wrong with it at all. So after the week we had, losing to Chelsea in the final, and then the performance against West Ham and only picking up 1 point. So it was very much crucial we got back to winning ways and very fast. And as I say, when we did score, there was that little bit extra edge, to our celebrations. And initially because we were at the other end and standing terrace, because the sun was in our eyes, I was like, because we were thinking, who scored? Because it looked like the way Brosnan went up, she knocked it into the net. And I was like, we were waiting for the announcement because it said goal. And I was like, is it own goal or somebody? And then Alan Keegan came on and said Melvin and scored as well. So yeah, it was a well taken goal. And she popped up at the right moment, and she had a good game throughout. She was, even early on in the game, she was driving force in the attack as well. So it was just, yeah, as I said earlier, it was a sense of relief amongst us all in the crowd. I'm just like, but it's what United do. They say the same. Then they're going to disappoint, and then they just drag you back and give you that bit more excitement as well. So it's just like the same. Good to get a winning goal in there, added on time as well. So we'll take them whatever way they come. So, but yeah, brilliant delivery by Rolfo for the corner. It's like, yeah, couldn't have landed it any more perfectly. So yeah, and 3 valuable points out of it.
And it was spot on. And so I know that if Connor were here this evening, we could have potentially been talking about another corner kick that doesn't beat the first person and is a bit of a waste. But this time it was absolutely perfect. It just about beat the first person. It couldn't have got any better. And there's just nothing more Man United than a nice last minute winner. And there's part of me that thinks that sort of score, that sort of moment, is just the sort of thing that you need to just relight that little fire that you had. Do you think that this could potentially not just be a good result now, but actually getting that and winning it in the manner that we did could potentially give us that little bit of revitalization that we need going into what is going to be an absolutely huge 7 days?
100%. I think that, obviously you hate it. You hate conceding at the last minute, and then, the stress of it all, it's terrible, and you say you hate it and you're moaning, and then you score and suddenly it's the best thing ever, and the game was the best thing ever, and this team has never done anything wrong. Obviously I said earlier that for most of the second half I was a little bit bored, and I was getting a bit annoyed, and part of me just wanted to turn it off because I was like, nothing's going to happen. Thank God I didn't, because that I feel like from a spectator point of view, it can be a little bit, I feel like a lot of our football lately has been a bit stale, and obviously we've not had great results. It's all been a bit not ideal, right? And it very easily this game could have just been, okay, Turner scores in the first half and then nothing happens to the second half, and yes, okay, everyone's happy that we won, but it's still quite stale, and we're going into Wednesday and then the weekend with this kind of trepidation. And I think exactly what you said about needing that fire, when I think back to a few seasons ago when it felt like every single game we were winning it in injury time, I've never been so fired up about this team since those days, really. So to see that come back, it was the same in the Spurs game recently. It's that same thing of you remember why you get behind this team, because it is just absolutely brilliant to get an injury time winner. There's really nothing like it, and it's stressful and horrible, but then it's brilliant. So I think you could tell from the way that the players were celebrating, the whole team celebrated. It was a nice big group hug. Everyone was screaming. That's exactly what you need, and I think hopefully that will be enough to fire us up going into this week of big fixtures.
Well, my fingers are firmly crossed on that one, that's for sure. It was, like I say, a good win, and it left us with our player of the match. I will be revealing who you guys have chosen as your player of the match in just a moment. And by you guys, of course, I mean the people on the chat. I'm not going to tell Andrew and Soph what to do. This is not one of those dictatorial countries. No, sir, Bob. So, Andrew, who would you have picked as your player of the match? Did you pick somebody on the list, or did you have somebody else?
So I had Melvin Malard. She was just she was just the driving force in our attack as well, and saying got the crucial goal in the to give us all the 3 points as well. So yeah, say my vote goes to her.
So
yeah, I also voted for Melvin, or Melvina, as you put on the poll. I do kind of want to. Part of me was a bit annoyed that I voted for her, because now that I'm thinking about it, I maybe should have done Simi, but I chickened out and I put Melvin. So yeah, but Andrew said it already.
did I really put down as Melvina? Suits her. Nice name. The A's nowhere near the E. Well, it's not a million miles from the E, but not near enough. Anyway, there we go. Sorry, Melvin. My bad. But we'll make sure that it's spelled correctly on the award. Okay, that's the main thing. We are going to have a little look ahead to the Bayern match in just a moment, but let's just run through a few of your comments that we've starred. Let's be honest, you guys are using the Everton game as the League Cup redemption, which it is not. I don't think anybody's done that at all, not having that one on here. Thank God Hinnie is back, but she's going to be tied with the Asian Cup and all the travel involved. I don't think we're going to see Hinnie in this Bayern Munich match midweek. I really don't. I think we will probably be looking at the same midfield three as we saw on Saturday. I can't see why you would do it. That would be absolutely crazy, especially knowing that you're going to need her for the game now on Saturday. Common sense just dictates, you know what, we've made it this far. I wouldn't be surprised if we were a little bit more defensive and just looked to not get battered, I suppose, in the nicest possible way on that one. I've come to the conclusion that I'm just not going to listen to anything you say when it comes to your predictions, Couture, because you come across as being all nice and lovely with, I think this is going to happen and United are going to do well, and then you're doing voodoo on me and it's not working because, you'll definitely beat Chelsea. We didn't. Then you said it again. No, I really mean it this time. And now, no, I'm not falling for this tomfoolery and skullduggery. It's not happening. So no to you, sir, on that one. 2 big games at Old Trafford, and this is a big thing as well. We have obviously playing at Old Trafford on Wednesday and on the weekend when we play Bayern Munich and City. Very important to get some people out there. So if you haven't bought your tickets already and you can get there, buy a ticket. There we go. Little fun fact, why can't you play Champions League games at LSV? Well, I feel like this is something you should know, what we've having been to Champions League quarterfinals before. It's only our first go. But it's kind of the rules now. You've got to have a proper stadium. And poor old little LSV, I don't think cuts the mustard for the level of ground that they would want. I don't understand why people are on Skinner. It's the board's fault for lack of depth. I mean, that's a question that we could certainly delve into on another day. And Chelmer has said, Barry, there's a chance of 3 L's in your next 3 games. How are you planning to handle that if it happens? I would say to you 8-2. I mean, you've got Arsenal, Villa and Arsenal. There's absolutely every chance that you come out of that, out of the Champions League, because you would be playing against the holders now, wouldn't you? And of course, Aston Villa, who are no mugs at all. So Agent Hansen might have a little something to say to you there. So you just never know. Keep your words sweet, Chelmer. You might have to eat them later, is what I would say on that one. Right, Bayern Munich, let's... Not suspicious, just whatever you say, the opposite is working. Magical, I would say. It's just some sort of magical thing that you've got going on. Maybe you don't even know that it's happened. Maybe a witch put it on you when you were younger. I don't know. But what I do know is that I'm just not going to believe it. It's not happening. Not happening. Draw the line in the sand. Safe. Big games coming up. By the time we come back in 7 days, obviously we will be just ahead of the second leg against Bayern. Talks. Yes, and I meant Arsenal, Villa, Arsenal. I mean, you must know your own matches, Chelmer. Surely you must. Not this evening, Emily. No, Freya's not feeling very well. So we're going to take a week off. We will be back next week on that one. So there we go. So for you, Bayern, put it in there, Bayern City Brian, just in case we didn't know. What do we think? By the time we get there, are we going to be crying into our cornflakes, or can you see now a little bit more to be cheerful for?
I don't know. I don't. I'm a bit scared. I'm going to be honest.
Yeah.
I am a little bit scared. I think our best chance out of those three is Wednesday. So that is the one I would be focusing all my effort on, to be honest. Yeah, I think losing Ziggy against City is killer, and then obviously Bayern having the home advantage in the FAR game, that could impact us. So yeah, it's tricky because obviously like it's a new opponent. See, we've played them in the World Sevens, which someone forgot, and they were saying that, well, we've never played Bayern before. I was like, don't erase the World Sevens, guys. That was instrumental. But yeah, we've never really played them before. We don't, obviously, we know what to expect in terms of stats and, we know the narrative, but it's tricky because it's not the team we've come up against before. So yeah, I think I can't really predict it, to be honest, and I'm not going to try to because I'll make myself look like an idiot. But yeah, I think I can't see us making many changes. Obviously, we're still quite thin on the ground. I do agree, like, we're not going to see Hinny. And I'm kind of glad for it because I don't want her to just get immediately injured. But yeah, I think we'll have to see. I think we just need to bring a bit of fight, hoping for some, I mean, that's exactly what I was going to say, hoping for some individual brilliance. I would love, maybe some Jess Park magic, maybe Rolfo doing something mad. I'd like to see Rolfo at left back again. I'm sticking with it. Sorry, Barry. But yeah, we'll see.
I don't mind if she is. Like, listen, it's my job to wind people up and throw the questions out there. That's all my job is to do. And hopefully I'm doing it well. Listen, I like this. Maybe I'm just throwing a bit of reverse psychology back in. So now that you're giving it old Bayern will win 5-0 both games and then we win them both. Delightful, wouldn't it? You never know. We shall see. Emily saying, I think it'll be United 3, Bayern Munich 2. I don't know if that's after both games or just after one. But yeah, seeming to score an even better banger than she did against them in the sevens would be nice. Andrew Soap says she doesn't look like a fool on the interbobbins, but I should imagine, just like me, you've got no problems with that whatsoever. So come on, Andrew, be a fool. What are you thinking?
I was going to say it's Champions League night, the special nights, and whether at LSV or going to be at Old Trafford, you just like, as long as United, go in there, try their best. As as long as we can come out of something, on their Wednesdays and something still to play for in the second leg. So, but somebody, as I was pointed out on Saturday after the game, we don't make it past Bayern. We've still been one of the top 8 sides in Europe this season, and you look at the likes of Barcelona, Lyon, Munich, to be amongst teams like that, and we're one of the top 8, but let's say as long as we can nick something out of the game Wednesday to take something to Bayern with us, as I'd prefer, away first and then home second leg, as I'd say. But we've got to see if we're still in it for the second leg. But yeah, I say Wednesday, I don't see many changes. Whether the question mark is Hinny, just how tired is she from the Asia Cup, or is he thinking now with Ziggy now suspended for the derby, do you just leave her on the bench? And if we need something, if we're trying to get something out of Bayern, in the second half. So, but yeah, so I'm looking forward to, the home and away leg of playing Bayern as well. So yeah, it's going to be a good game, whatever. So
for sure.
Yeah.
Just to answer this question, because I get the feeling you've jumped in a little bit late. Obviously, Ziggy with the yellow card at the weekend means that she has now got 5 yellow cards, and that equals a 1-match ban. And that 1-match ban happily comes against Manchester City, because why not? Why not, indeed? Right. Oh, hello. We've got somebody from Man United in the chat. £15 for a Champions League experience. Come on, United fans. Fill up those seats and cheer on our team. Couldn't argue with it. Right. had something I was going to say, Andrew, but I've completely lost it. Oh, no, I've got it. The question is back. Worry not. So it's a completely hypothetical question and obviously has no bearing on the real world whatsoever, but I'm a little bit intrigued. If you only had the option of victory and one, so we could either make it to the next round of the Champions League, whereas as we're happily being told Barcelona away, or win the game against Manchester City, which do you feel is more important? And I feel like this is a good question, not because of the fantasy element of it all, but I think it kind of helps us to put into focus actually what success is going to be at the end of this season. Making a semi-final for our first go in the Champions League would be incredible, but also losing to Manchester City would give Chelsea a little bit more of a potential foothold, especially with Arsenal, because I think I'm just explaining it. I hope that you're understanding where I'm going at with that one. So what to you would be more important? Is it that win against City and trying to save our position for next season, or would you rather the glory of making it to the semi-finals of the Champions League?
It's a double jeopardy question, this is.
I can tell by I think I started the podcast with an absolutely fantastic question, and this one finishes it brilliantly, I feel.
I want to win them all, but I know you want one. I'm gonna say winning Bayern, because obviously being in Europe our first season, I want that European tour still to continue, and say first time going there, watching the girls abroad for myself, so I kind of want it to continue a little bit longer. So that's tough question, but yeah, rather than win all three, but I'll choose Bayern because I want, to get in the semi-finals and then possibly even the final. Let's go and win it, and then we'll be back in it again.
I think it's going to be very interesting. I think this is the point. Beat City, try and secure Champions League for next season to become regulars is much more important than going another round now and getting knocked out eventually. But we say getting knocked out eventually. You've got the semi-finals and then, of course, the final. And the final is, of course, not over 2 legs. So you would be 3 games away from something just... I mean, can you imagine the faces of the world? Could you imagine it if Manchester United won a Champions League before Chelsea? I wonder if we'd see Chelsea back again and Couture back again. You'd like to think they'd pop in and congratulate us, but I think it would be an amazing thing. I don't know. For you, Soph, what do you think is more important? At the moment, City seems to be the popular choice in the chat, but what do you reckon?
Yeah, I think I have to agree with the City game. It's probably like the boring practical answer, because obviously I would love to stay in the Champions League for as long as possible. However, obviously if we're only talking about this one game, you don't get anything for being a semi-finalist, so I would rather we secure top 3 and get it for next season, I think, because I think if we want to establish ourselves, exactly what someone just said, if we want to establish ourselves, we need to be consistent with it. And I think, we might have been a bit lax in certain games. Maybe it's already lost, but I don't think it is personally. I think we'll be fine. But I think winning against City would secure that, I would imagine. So I'd take that.
I mean, that's a very good point here. I would happily take winning either game as well, but I do think this is a good way to end that conversation, really. Having tasted it this season, we must have it again next season. And I think that, to me, is probably the answer of the whole question. That's certainly my favourite. I think that fact that we've had it now, obviously there's that part of you that wants to keep going and wants to keep the romance of that alive. And of course, it's not an either or thing. It's not like if we beat Bayern that we can't have the win against City. You could have both. We could have neither. It's very much the case. But I do think, without question, that is the answer. I think that top 3 position needs to be nailed down, and it's very, very difficult otherwise. Right, I've just remembered I didn't actually say who won the Player of the Match award for you guys in the chat. I can confirm that Jess Park got 5% of the vote, which does cheer me up because it means I wasn't the only person who thought she could have been in the top 4, so that's good. Elizabeth Turland finished 3rd, which is interesting because she was the one who was voted Player of the Match for Sky Sports. So 22% for her. Between Simi and Mel, Simi got 31%. Melvina, her sister, got 42%. So Melvine Mallard is our Player of the Match winner against Everton. So congratulations, as Cliff Richard would sing. So there we go. Brilliant. I think it's been really, really nice. What a lovely show, and lovely to be able to have a little bit more positivity and not be talking about being beaten by Chelsea or not being able to score against the Happy Hammers. Wonderful stuff. I wonder if our next conversation next week is going to maintain that joy, or whether or not we will be going down another rabbit hole. We shall find out. But until then, so pleasure to have you with us again. Thank you very much. Your light lasted. We'll let you go and get that changed so that you don't stub your toe first thing in the morning. That would be horrific. And Andrew, again, thank you to you as well. And God bless you for keeping all of those ships off of the rocky parts of Birmingham. Well done, you. Absolute pleasure to have had you with us. Thank you, everybody else in the chat. It's been a pleasure, as always, whether you be United, whether you be Chelsea, whether you just sit there without saying anything whatsoever. It has been a pleasure. We will probably be back before the weekend to have a little look over whatever happens against Bayern Munich. But hey, you all said you'd rather have City, so we're obviously going to lose. So maybe we won't bother. We'll find out. Either way, we'll be here before the weekend. Until then, have a cracking week. Night all.